It's time to pick a side. The border war is on the air with BG and TanMan. All right, true believers, welcome to episode 99 of the border war. TanMan, you wouldn't know it from stepping outside, but spring is in the air. So
You're
they
right,
say.
I would not know it.
All the trees are blooming, but it is 41 degrees.
I think Punxsutawney Phil lied, man.
And rainy here in the south.
Early spring. Psych.
Thumbs up or thumbs down, Groundhog Day, the movie? You haven't seen it.
No, I've seen it.
Okay, I was waiting. It was made in the 90s. So.
No, thumbs up. It was good for its time.
Yeah, no, I enjoy
Thumbs
watching
up. It was good for its time.
Bill Murray Bill Murray and Will Ferrell, like their face just makes me laugh even when they're not doing something funny.
See, I'm a Vince Vaughn man.
Yeah, no, Vince Vaughn's got that. He's got that sort of.
He's got like that dry.
Yeah, people forget there was a time
face.
when Vince Vaughn tried to make quote unquote serious movies and finally just gave up. And
Good. We are all greater
started
for
making
it.
movies like that wedding counselor thing. I don't remember the name of it.
I would not have you.
Where they went to the island.
I would not have you disgrace Wedding Crashers.
No, that's not what I meant. The one where they go to the. They're like in counseling and they go to some tropical island or something.
Oh,
Couples
retreat.
Couples retreat
With Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah. Couldn't remember the name of that one. That one.
Yeah, so I'm the movie buff today.
Yeah, but not the most famous movies ever made. We're talking about Vince Vaughn comedies here.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Tombstone.
Tombstone is stupid.
Oh boy, you just lost half our listeners. All right, so
We can't afford that.
lots of ways to listen to us. We are on Spreaker. We are on Apple Podcast. We're on TuneIn Radio app. We're on Spotify. Those are the big ones.
Seems like there's more.
There are more. Were we on iHeartRadio at one point? We tried to get on iHeartRadio.
I think we tried to get on. I think we were rejected. And now iHeartRadio is paying the price.
Spotify owns them anyway. I listen to all the podcasts I listen to off Spotify. I find it really easy to deal with. All right, so like I said, episode 99, this is going to be our baseball preview. College baseball, obviously a week old. Games across the Southeast being canceled today. Clemson, South Carolina. Some little school down in Clinton also canceled. Today, so no baseball today. The Braves, I think the entire roster has reported now.
I think they're all there. I think they actually start spring training games next week.
Yeah. So we're going to do a little Braves preview. We'll look at college baseball preview, SEC, ACC, even though the season's a week old, but that doesn't tell you a whole lot. So we're going to get started with the Atlanta Braves, obviously making it into the playoffs for the first time last year. What was it, since 2005? Is that right?
No, it hadn't been that long.
It hadn't been that long? No. Was it 11?
2011. 11 or 12.
Obviously ran into a buzzsaw with the Dodgers. Did manage to win a game, which we felt like was more than we were expecting.
It sounds like a win to me.
But I don't know, TanMan, let's start with the Braves pitching rotation. So last year, Foltynewicz, or Folty, I guess we're going to call him. He was mostly the second guy. Am I right about that? I mean, and it seems like he's going to step up to be the ace now.
Well, that pitching rotation is going to be one of the spring training focal points. You got to feel like you look at it. 4 of the 5 spots that are kind of spoken for when you talk about Foltynewicz,
the fifth,
Tehran, Sean Newcomb, Kevin Gausman. But that 5th spot is what's really going to be interesting because you look at the names. Soroka, we saw him some with the big club last year. Touki Toussaint had a great some great outings when he came up. Kobe Allard, Kyle Wright, Max Fried, Luis Gohara. I mean, you got 5 or 6 guys right here who could stake claim to being a starting pitcher in a major league rotation very soon, if not from the very beginning.
You also have guys like Bryce Wilson. You've got Kyle Wright. You've got Kobe Allard, and look, somebody's going to get hurt in spring training, right? I mean, somebody's going to sprain an elbow, overextend an arm. All of these guys are going to get starts. But you're right. I have a feeling that 5th spot this year is really going to be kind of a rotating door. I think you're going to see a lot of these guys get a chance. And Snitker is sort of that hot hand guy anyway.
Yeah.
There are teams out there that essentially really don't have a fifth pitcher.
Well,
a lot of times they'll shoot right back up to the ace if they have the right kind of a calendar. So we'll see how the Braves
Tampa Bay actually made kind of a splash last year where they starting relief pitchers. You saw that. They were like starting relief pitchers and guys starting. If I'm Atlanta, at some point during the year, what do you think the chances are of them kicking around the 6-man rotation? Because I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at 6 names here for one starter spot. Some of these guys are young. Why not throw a 6-man out there every other trip to the rotation or so?
Buys you some innings.
I'm
one of these guys that loves making parallels between different sports. I find those big issues to be fascinating. Don Staley said in a press conference a couple of weeks ago, and you and I have been talking about it off the air for 2 or 3 years now, how basketball has sort of become a positionless sport. Mm-hmm. It's almost like everyone in the NBA is a small forward. Some of them are just 6'11". Right. Everybody's got to play the wing. Everybody has to shoot the three. Do you think that is sort of what's starting to happen in baseball with pitchers? I mean, it used to be, we had these strictly demarcated, I'm a starting pitcher, I'm a middle reliever, I'm a setup guy. Yeah. And I think that's over. I think what you're talking about is just a symbol of that. What you are is innings.
Yeah, the smart.
How many innings can you give me?
The smart guys, the guys that think outside the box in baseball, are kind of doing some of that stuff already.
And you see it in the playoffs all the time, right? We're going to throw our ace out there. We're hoping he can give us 2 innings.
Right.
You see that in the pressure cooker that is the playoffs.
They'll bring these guys back out of the bullpen that started the day before, 2 days before, when you get into these playoff series, just to get an inning or two. Back to Atlanta, BG. One number when I had getting ready for the show, take a guess. How many pitchers did the Atlanta Braves use in relief situations last year?
Oh, Lord. I'm going to say...
what's a major league bullpen typically run you? About 8 guys?
Yeah.
6 guys?
Yeah. I'm going to say 27.
And they used 30 pitchers in relief situations last year. Yeah. They blew 20. They had 40 saves as a staff, but they blew 20 saves.
Oh, no. Their bullpen was really consistently their main concern during the season.
So like I said, you've got
not starting pitching.
You've got a wealth of depth that started at the starter spot here. So I'm interested to see whether or not they get creative with that rotation. The other story out of spring training I think you can look at with this Braves team is one that's a familiar one, Dansby Swanson. If you look at his numbers and all the number heads, I don't know what you would want to call them, but sabermetrics guys, you break down Swanson's numbers, and in late game situations and situational hitting, man, he's fantastic. But the problem is you also got to hit in the 3rd inning too.
Yeah.
And he's basically terrible at the plate before the 7th inning. How long of a leash is Swanson going to have? Because
averages out.
You want to have his defense out there, but at the plate, he's really
you want more consistently. You feel like, okay, here's the thing. Would you just settle? I see what you're saying. He averages out to a 239 average last year, right? Would you settle for him actually batting 239? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. In other words, you take a 5-game series, a 10-game spread, whatever, and you look at it, he's batting 239. In other words, he's getting better than 1 hit out of every 5 trips to the bat and excellent defense. Batting 7th, I think you would take that. But your point is that sometimes he's batting 400 and sometimes he's batting 092.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta hit the whole game. You can't just hit from the 7th inning on.
And there were times, too, lots of times last year when they really just needed him to play small ball, advance runners and whatever. And in some situations, he wasn't doing a great job with that. I mean, I think his biggest problem, though, is just the amount of hype he had before he ever put on a Braves uniform.
I think that's a lot of it.
I just don't think he's the player. I mean, here's the thing. Am I wrong to think, okay, he plays shortstop. That's where Chipper played when he came up. Mm-hmm. They both have, how do you want to describe it, memorable names.
Got cool names.
Cool little 2-syllable nickname type names. They both came up through the farm system. I think people thought Dansby Swanson was going to be Chipper Jones. Man, there's not going to be another Chipper Jones on the Braves for a long, long, long time.
Probably not in our lifetime.
And Dansby I really do. I think people thought he was going to hit the ball like Chipper hit the ball, and that isn't going to happen.
Well, look,
but Chipper was never the defensive dynamo that Dansby is either.
Swanson, they're going to leave him out there for now. I would tend to his defense is going to buy him a little bit of time, but if the struggles at the plate don't improve, they've got a deep farm system. They've got some options on that infield now. I think you're going to see Dansby Swanson's days in Atlanta are going to be numbered. His number's going to come up quicker than you think. Preseason predictions. The Braves, their off-season, relatively quiet. I know one name that everyone was interested and excited to get in on, JT Realmuto. That is off the table. He is now in Philadelphia. And the Phillies are also in talks.
A little quieter offseason than I think most Braves fans wanted.
Yeah. No Craig Kimbrell so far. Like I said, no Realmuto. The Phillies are quietly assembling quite a team up there. They're in the Bryce Harper sweepstakes. They're also going to be trying to get in on the Mike Trout sweepstakes here very shortly. So watch out for that. But Bleacher Report. Last year, the Atlanta Braves... a major turnaround. Bleacher Report has the Braves at 95 wins, BG. 95-67, a 5-win improvement, a 4-game lead, a 4-game division win over the Washington Nationals. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Right or wrong?
That sounds about right. I think I had them this time last year. We had this same show. I think I picked them to finish 82-80. Mm-hmm. We talked about how the season before, they were even as bad as that season ended. They were sitting at 500, well over halfway into the season, and then just sort of fell apart. I think the Braves take a little step forward. There's nothing about the Nationals that seems first place to me. That division in general is about as weak as it's been past 15 years.
Yeah,
I mean. The Braves certainly have young talent. They haven't lost anything. Pitching staff looks like it should be as good as it was last year. Hopefully the bullpen's a little bit better. Braves should have won more games than they did last year.
Yeah.
They really should have.
I disagree with you, man. I think the Atlanta Braves, while they won a lot of close games early, they benefited from a division that basically just fell apart. I mean, the Washington Nationals,
the Phillies just dropped out, and the Mets.
The Phillies tripped over themselves coming in. The Nationals struggled right out of the gate, and they never could get right.
And the Mets were basically not a professional baseball team last year.
The Mets were all hurt. I mean, their medical bill last year had to exceed their salary.
Can we say bad things about the Mets though when we don't give them excuses? When you have a chance to throw the Mets under the bus, you throw the Mets under the bus. Yes, you do.
Toss the Mets. And no, I agree with you, man. Get rid of the Mets. And then you got
pond scum. That's what my father-in-law used to call them.
Then you get the Miami Marlins, who, probably would not have won the Southern League in the Double-A standing. So I think Atlanta benefited a lot from a division that just kind of fell apart. I don't think you can count on that happening again.
But I think they're going to be a better baseball team, though.
Well, they might be a better baseball team, but record-wise. I think they're going to take a step back. That's got them at, 95 wins. Found some other projected, and this is a composite of 3 different groups. Their composite standings, their projections, has Atlanta at 83-79, and I think that's that might be a little bit low, but I think that's a little more in line.
But you think the Braves win more than they lose?
Oh yeah.
Do you think they make the playoffs?
No.
Okay. I mean, I could see it.
No.
The window is such a tight one.
Because you're talking what, five teams? The Brewers, again, what they win, 96, 97.
Right.
They're probably not winning 96 or 97, but they're still going to be in the mix. I expect St. Louis to come back up. You talk about the Cubs. I think Philadelphia is quietly well, not so quietly, but I think Philadelphia is on their way to putting together a real problem up there in the city of brotherly love. So I know.
I
think they miss out, and 83 seems a little low, but I'm going to say somewhere around 86.
So, all right, so let's say 83 doesn't get you in the playoffs. How many wins get you in the playoffs if you're Atlanta? Give me a bottom number. Like, what's the lowest number?
88.
Okay, so this is what kills me about baseball. And I agree with you. 5-win window. Mm-hmm. But people are going to tell me, those games in April don't matter. Like hell, they don't.
They don't matter until you're standing there the last week of the season, needing to take 2 out of 3 from a division rival just to force a tie for a wild card playoff.
Same thing in the NBA. People, seeding matters, and your division standings might not matter. But look, and nobody makes that argument about football, so I won't even bring it up.
Yeah,
there is a tight window. So when you see the Braves, get down 7-0 in the 8th and come back and win one, those games are going to matter. And when you see them, lose a game on a bad throw that they should have won, or the bullpen blows one, then those are going to be games that matter too. So if you want to see how the Braves are doing, what I would do is just keep up with the one-run wins and losses. If they're winning 2/3 of those. They're probably in good shape to make the playoffs. If they're losing 2/3 of those, then that'll be what cost you. And we talked about it. People forget too that when you look at records, it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but when you talk about adjusting records, we talked about it with the Hornets at the beginning of the season. Not something I'm really interested in talking about anymore for the rest of this year, but when you take a loss away, you add it to the win column, right? Those numbers change at the same time. So the Braves, I'm with you. There is a very tight line for them this season between playoffs and not playoffs, winning the division and not winning the division. Yeah. But that's compelling. Yeah, that's a good reason to watch every game. Anytime you catch them on, these games are all going to matter for the Braves this year. Yeah. And there's a lot of teams in that boat.
Yeah, I remember saying last year about this time, my prediction was that I didn't know if they'd make the playoffs, but that Atlanta would be playing meaningful baseball games in September. Turns out they played a lot more than just meaningful games. They wound up winning the freaking division. I still stick to the same thing. I think Atlanta's going to be a factor. They're going to be a player all year long. But I think other teams are going to come up to their level, and they're going to they might be better, but it might not always show up in the win column, and I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to predict the Braves fall just outside of that playoff window. So on to the college scene. You mentioned the college baseball season started this past weekend. The Division I, D1 baseball rankings. I know college baseball has like 500 rankings that they use, but this one has got Vanderbilt at 1. A series of SEC teams in that top 5. North Carolina checks in at 6. You got another handful of ACC squads in there as well, and then Clemson at 24. Outside of that is South Carolina BG, so we're going to start in the SEC.
All right.
Why is South Carolina not getting more respect around the country? This team almost... they went to a super regional, knocked on the door to Omaha last year. But
37-26 last year, 17-13 in the nastiest division in college baseball, and they're predicted to finish 4th in the East. And in Mark Kingston's own words, we lost everybody. Mm-hmm. So they were not predicted to finish to be in the top 25 last year. I think they finished the season ranked 12th at the end of last season because, as Kingston said, we had a bunch of guys nobody knew. They all turned out to be pretty good baseball players. So I think that early returns on the Gamecock season, they're 3-1. Lost the opener versus Liberty, who, frankly, and a lot like basketball, you can't look at the size of these schools and make assumptions about baseball teams. Schools like Liberty can have good baseball teams.
The Fighting Jerry
Falwells, who just went up to Wake Forest, beat a ranked Demon Deacons team last night, 9-3, I think. Not that it's still early, but it does help the optics a little bit. South Carolina down, I think 6-0 to Winthrop last night. Battles back and wins it 8-6. I think those sorts of things early on are the kind of games that kind of affect you. And I'll be honest with you. We start the season so early. I mean, it's so cold and weird out there right now that I don't even know how much these games tell you. They certainly count. But I've seen things from Mark Kingston that make me think that, a lot like Frank Martin, that he's going to develop talent. One thing that I've been excited about so far is just T.J. Hopkins, South Carolina center fielder. It was reported, it was a weird story, but reports late last year that he had fractured a vertebra in his back.
Yeah.
That's not stuff you want to hear with a power hitter. But
as a Dallas Cowboy fan, I can attest that once you start messing up your back,
yeah,
it's going to be messed up.
But early returns on Hopkins this year, he's putting the bat to the ball. I mean, I think he has 3 home runs already. So if Hopkins has a big year, I think, I don't know that he's Seth Beer quality, but he has the
That's
potential.
a lofty goal.
I said, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that he is, but he has the ability to be one of the premier offensive players in the league. I'm not worried about our starting pitching. It didn't look great, but again, starting pitching when it's 47 degrees outside,
No, I was just saying, man, no pitcher looks great in this.
yeah, it's not great baseball weather.
I'm counting 8.
I think South Carolina does better than 4th in the East. I'll just put it that way.
Counting 8 teams right now in the top 25 from the SEC. Like I said, South Carolina's not in them. So you're looking at a list of Baseball America's top 20 prospects for the 2019 draft. No Gamecocks. They've got the top 20, the top 10 draft prospects for 2020. You got 1 Gamecock, Noah Campbell, in there. So it seems like you guys have a lot of guys, like you said, that we don't necessarily know. They're not household names right now. But it sounds like you feel like there's some potential with that team.
Well, I definitely think there's potential. It is a young team. And, Noah Campbell's a great player, but one of his best attributes is the fact that he plays second base. I mean, Major League Baseball has become about that infield defense, and you don't hit balls past Campbell. That's got a lot to do with his high draft status, not taking anything away from him. Power hitting outfielders are a dime a dozen in a lot of ways. But, I mean, let's go back to those South Carolina teams that won, national titles, and even – a Coastal Carolina team that won a national title. These teams do not have to be full of major league talent. In fact, I think baseball is the hardest sport to recruit in the nation. Unlike basketball, these players can take off before you ever get them. They can commit to you. They can count against your scholarship limit, and they can never play.
Well, that's what cost Jack Leggett his job.
Yeah.
I mean, he recruited so well and got so many great players to sign and say, I'm going to come to Clemson, and none of them ever came.
Right.
Jeff Francoeur being a great example. He never showed up.
And I think Kingston, from comments I've heard, I think he's flying below the radar a bit on recruiting on purpose to try to stay out of that situation.
It seems like I read somewhere you guys went the JUCO route on a lot of those guys.
Yeah, well, I think early on, because I think it's going to be 5 or 6 years before people are going to realize the morale issues that Holbrook left down there. And, I mean, stuff's coming out about Chad Holbrook's attempted
coup with the College of Charleston.
Yeah, it's getting – no, but, I mean, there's some ugly stuff coming out.
Well, aren't they getting ready to sue him or something?
Yes, they are. And I don't want to get into all that. But Kingston kind of like Will Muschamp when he took over at Florida. I mean, he's got issues to clean up other than just on-the-field baseball stuff. Mm-hmm. But again, for right now, what you have to go on is last year's team, a team that was not projected to do anything, won 37 games and made a super regional.
All right. So and early June, we're going to sit here in early June. Where is South Carolina going to be at?
Early June, I think they'll be playing in another super regional.
Okay, that's what I want.
I think that's the goal.
What's
for
the goal
me
here?
Personally? Not Omaha.
Yeah,
not Omaha. But yeah, I think South Carolina should make. I think if South Carolina was to lose a regional at home, I would be embarrassed as a college baseball fan. That rarely happens, though.
Well, speaking of losing regionals at home,
what do you mean?
Move over to the ACC.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
The Clemson Tigers.
What a coincidence.
The Clemson Tigers, BG, they are projected right now to finish third in the Atlantic Division behind a couple other powerhouses. And let's face it, Clemson is a powerhouse too in baseball. 22-8 in the ACC last year. Behind, pick a little fuzz off my shirt.
I think that was a female hair.
We'll
just leave it at that.
But Clemson picked to finish third. Expectations down at Clemson are high once again, rightfully so. But I mentioned it to you before we went on the air.
They got some big holes to fill, though.
Before we went on the air, Clemson has not gotten out of a regional since 2010.
Yeah, let that sink in, people.
They have not made a super regional, much less the College World Series.
Now, I will say this.
Since 2010.
Okay, so Jack Leggett, not to the extent that Holbrook did, but he had, in a Fedora-like situation, he had taken that program where it was going to go and then stayed longer than that. So Jack Leggett was past his prime, and I think he didn't leave as much talent on that team as people think.
No, because they never came. They never showed up. They went to play pro ball.
Monty Lee takes over. The day he was hired, I should have dressed in all black. I always wanted him as South Carolina's coach. He was a Gamecock fan. I knew him. We were both first-year teachers together near here. Used to sit together in meetings.
Did you know your kids' names and ask about your dad?
No, because I didn't have kids then. But great guy. Came up through the South Carolina coaching farm system. Probably would have taken it. Just the timing didn't work out.
Yeah.
Okay. I love Mark Kingston. I'm all good with it. I just hate that he ended up at Clemson. That being said, Monty, being a somewhat acquaintance of mine, he's fighting a narrative now. This is not about Clemson baseball. This has become about Monty Lee. And you've lost 3 straight home regionals. And
didn't they get
this
last 2 years it was
swept.
Vanderbilt. And didn't Vanderbilt blister them last year?
Oh, yeah.
When it was over with?
Oh, yeah.
And I think the year before, didn't they lose like 11-1 or something like that?
And again,
sent home?
And it hurts more because Vandy's guy is a Jack Leggett guy.
Yeah.
All right, so there's that narrative. But you know what I'm saying? When it happens once, fine. It happens twice, Sort of like we've talked about with South Carolina, just not showing up for football games. When that bowl game, it happens 3 times, man. Now this is a thing. And so Monty Lee, they're going to make the playoffs. But to me, that is when the season starts. Because I honestly think Clemson almost should hope to not get a home regional. But that's a tough climb.
Well,
that's a tough climb.
They've had a few of those since that super regional drought. They've had a few non-home regionals too, and it hasn't worked out.
And
for
I
them
felt
either.
like last year, at least and Clemson, does have a rabid baseball fan base. It is a small fan base when it comes to baseball, but the ones that I know talk a lot. And going into that regional, man, everything at the pressers and everything was, is Clemson going to get a super regional if these teams lose? And then they lose their regional. Like, it was almost like they looked beyond it. Whereas it felt like South Carolina was just sort of there to play baseball, right? Let's just show up and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like the Final Four team, All of a sudden you've won 2 or 3 games. You're like, hey, let's just keep playing.
Yeah. A lot like that Final Four team. I think it helped you guys that you had a familiar opponent.
Sure, no question.
It wasn't somebody that you were unfamiliar with or a place that you had never been. It was a comfortable setting. You've been there before. I think that matters.
Well, and the chances of that happening in the SEC are pretty high.
But then when you're Clemson, look, the year before you played Vanderbilt too, and you lost to them again. So what do I know? The team to beat that they have in the ACC, however, not the Clemson Tigers, not the Florida State Seminoles. The team to beat, according to Baseball America, in the ACC is, drumroll please, the North Carolina Tar Heels. North Carolina 44-20 last year, coming off of another College World Series trip, and another one where they went out there and kind of wet the bed on themselves a little bit. Oregon State got them again, lost twice to the Beavers out there in Omaha last year. But they return a ton. Michael Bush is he's going to wind up being a first-team All-American probably. You look at the draft prospects from this baseball team, and it is absolutely loaded with Tar Heels. You're talking about Bush, Austin Bergner, and others, Tyler Baum. I mean, they're going to be fantastic. The first ACC series of the year at Clemson. Couple of weeks. Yeah, so the Tar
You need
Heels,
to head out there, man.
I might. But the Tar Heels and the Tigers
Please tell me we're not playing you in a one-off Wednesday game in Charlotte this year. Oh, my God.
You want to go to that?
No.
Why not?
Because you're going to beat us 44-2.
Man, we're terrible.
Even
we'll
if, listen,
game.
if we don't win, we could lose one game this season. That's going to be it.
Man, that's like basketball, man. We don't have anybody that can play. Let's just go. Let's go to the game.
Your banter grows old, sir. Move on.
But the Tar Heels absolutely loaded BG. A lot of these guys played critical, plays, I guess you'd say, played a critical role in getting that College World Series last year. If you guys' goal is to make a super regional, I think that's got to be Clemson's goal. I don't think you can shoot any higher.
I think Clemson's goal has to be to win a regional.
Right. I don't think you can shoot higher when you haven't gotten out of your own regional in 8 years. But for North Carolina, it's College World Series, and it's almost national championship time in Chapel Hill.
I'll say this, and this is just the truth. And keep in mind, when I say this, I'm being fully honest because I'm sort of taking some shine off of our 2 national titles. When you make it to Omaha, that's it. That's all you can do.
It's kind of like that. Making the Final Four in basketball.
Yeah, man. Too. Once you're there,
that's hard to win, man.
Anything can happen. Yeah. It's your starting pitcher has an upset stomach, you might not win the College World Series. I mean, it's that tight.
Yeah. You look at Mike Martin at Florida
State. I tell you what, the bucket list,
never won one.
I would love to go to Omaha and just sit there all day watching all these teams play. I've never heard anything bad about that.
I don't know, man. You could go out there and you could wind up with one of those thunderstorms. It seems like every year they wind up with 2 days of it getting rained out.
They have roofs and stuff, though.
Yeah, but
you can stand under.
You could go out there thinking, I'm going to sit here and watch baseball all day, and you wind up watching like 3 innings. What else are you supposed to do?
Well, see, that's why you can't be my life coach.
No.
That's exactly why. No, you can't.
Because you'd be at a crossroads like, I'm going to buy these College World Series tickets, and I'd be like, Brian, here's the weather.
You can't call me that on the air.
Do that.
That isn't even my name.
Well,
my name is
Brain.
Shut up. Idiot.
Brain.
My name is not Brian.
I think Clemson's goal is to get out of that regional. If you're North Carolina, look, it's to get to Omaha. It's to get to the College World Series.
Absolutely,
again.
No question.
They've had good teams. They've had great teams that have fallen short. But you got to get out there and it's time to bring one of these things home to Chapel Hill. It can't all be on the basketball program.
Well, you feel like Florida State too, and LSU. These schools, man, y'all are always in the mix. But it just never happens.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
It's time. It's time for Mike Fox to win one. A couple years ago, after they had kind of made that run where they lost the 2 championship series, they had gotten back a couple more times, never could get back to that championship series level, and then they went through some down years. And a lot of Tar Heel fans around there, Mike Fox is a Carolina guy. A lot of Tar Heel fans were ready to kind of move on from him. And he seems to have righted the ship and gotten folks back on his side, at least for now.
So. A lot of people forget, too, because there's so many, quote-unquote, recent South Carolina baseball fans. People forget that Tanner had a really, really potent College World Series run in the early 2000s.
2002, lost to Texas, I think.
Yeah. And then, again, sort of dropped off the radar. Mm-hmm. Became this team, like you're just describing, that was sort of struggling to make it to regionals. And then came back, obviously, and won 2 of them. So it can happen. I mean, it can happen. And I think in baseball, a lot of that is on the coach. I think that managing
college baseball, I mean, you got your manager calling pitches from the dugout. So I mean, if things go sideways, there's not a lot of blame to disperse. It's kind of all on you.
Agreed.
But so that's it for episode 99. The baseball preview is in the books. We did a fantastic job. Go tell your friends. Like I said, like us and share our page on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at The Border War. He is at BG_Border War. I am at TanMan3264 because I didn't want to be the Border Wa. And we're done.
No Hornets.
Not this week.
Not next week.
Maybe. You never know.
You ain't making me talk about the Hornets anymore this season. Nope. Okay.